You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 FM and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in absolutely gorgeous, and I do mean gorgeous, Northport, Florida. And thank goodness the weather is getting a little bit calmer here. We're still feeling a chill, but the sun being out is a blessing. It's Martin Luther King Day, so absolutely drive safe out there. Be very careful. Keep all your thoughts and prayers out there for everybody who is celebrating today. It's an important day for our nation. Just remember that we're all brothers and sisters, and we all should get along. I can't preach what I practice, but we all should really focus in on treating everyone fairly. And never hurts to throw a helping hand out there and help somebody up. Debbie, you have anything you want to add into Martin Luther King Day? And go ahead and introduce yourself real quick, as if people don't know who Debbie McDowell is.
I am Debbie McDowell. I am the commissioner from the amazing city of Northport. I am on my second term. I was just recently reelected to be one of your elected officials. So thank you, John, for having me today. I do appreciate it.
Awesome. And it's nice to have you back for a second term.
Thank you.
How does it feel to go through? You went. I remember interviewing you when you went through it the first time. Is it different going through the second time?
Absolutely, it's different. Absolutely. The first time you have a sense of, and I'm only speaking for myself, you have a sense of naiveness when you're running the first time, and you have this grand idea of how things should be, could be, and will be. Then you're in office for 4 years and you run again, and you have a different opponent, and you're running again, and you have a better understanding of how the process is, and you understand what your role as a commissioner is. And you see all the new commissioners that are running for the first time, and you go, at least I found myself a couple of times going, did I really not get it? Did I really think it was something that it is? So you kind of, it's a time for reflection. And it was a very, very awesome opportunity. And I'm glad that I'm back for one more term, and then I will be done. I will not be able to run again as a city commissioner.
Well, and we only allow 2 terms here in Northport, correct?
Right. Only 2 terms. That's all you're allowed is 2 terms, and they're 4-year terms.
So I'm going to ask you this because I've asked this before, and I'm sure that I asked you this the last time. What would you suggest anybody who's looking to fill your seat, because there is no competition now because you're right, serving your last 4 years. If they were really looking to step up their game, if they had interest, what would you suggest as maybe something that would have helped you if you had a 4-year window into Debbie McDowell being city commissioner?
Well, when I ran the first time, I was already involved with government because I did the Cranberry and Price and learned how the ULDC works. I gave public comment a lot when I was a candidate. If I was to give any advice for any possible new candidates, and we do have that special election coming up, they need to start attending the meetings, and watching it virtually is completely different than being there in the room. Give public comment. To me, giving public comment really showed me what citizens go through when they get up there for their 3 minutes. That courage it takes to give your public comment. It is absolute courage. You could have the best speech laid out, and you get up there, and all of a sudden it's like flubber. Your voice starts cracking, and you start seeing everybody staring at you, and then all of a sudden you realize you're on camera. That is very intimidating. And giving public comment and learning to give public comment, learning what citizens go through, when they're getting up there and addressing their elected officials was extremely helpful for me. When I became an elected official, I was already used to the cameras. I was already used to people staring at me. So yes, I was still nervous because I'm in a different position and a different role. But being involved with what's going on in the city and coming to the meetings and seeing and observing and understanding it from each candidate's vantage point, to me was an invaluable tool that I was able to have the first time around.
Well, and I'm going to back you up on all that, because I did a presentation to 5 city commissioners who I knew on a friendship level.
Mm-hmm.
And this was back in, I think, 07, 08-ish. And I can tell you that giving that, and I don't want to say speech, but giving that dialogue was the most nerve-wracking event. And I went into it thinking, oh, I got this, because I don't have to worry about it. It's when you get in front of not just the cameras, but even the dais is intimidating.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if you've never, and I really had never done that. I was never scared of TV. I was never scared of radio, but the dais it's not just intimidating. To me, it's where you actually go. And I think the word respect is so intimidating that it shocks the person who's presenting. Mm-hmm. And I say that gracefully, because I think all of us kind of go in with a idea on what we're going to do. And I think we pick our words differently as we're giving our speeches because of the respect that has to be shown there. And I think it puts some caution, builds some wall. And it was probably the greatest thing I ever did, was to speak out on that project, because because I agree with your thought process, because just because you're a citizen giving that presentation, it's still intimidating. And you can back me up on this. If you don't do it and you don't see it, and then you are the commissioner who's sitting on the dais, that can be a completely different shocker too.
Absolutely. Sitting up on the dais and seeing staff and knowing that your words matter. And everybody already understands that my face speaks much quicker than my words do. I'm still trying to work on that, and sometimes it's easier than others. But I'm human, and yeah, my face actually speaks what my words are or what my heart is, and that's just me. I am trying to fix that and try and be a little bit more stoic, but it's a lot easier to say that than to actually do it.
Well, when you're 32 years old and you have those habits, it's hard to break, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for the age mention there, John. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I didn't mean to overestimate, but I hope I was right.
You're very close. I'll give you that.
So, I think it's really cool that we can, now that you've gone through it the second time, actually have this conversation, because there are people out there who are even running in this special election.
Correct.
I'm not picking on anyone in particular, because I haven't met any of them. So I'm making a very, very general, broad statement here. If whoever's running in the special election, I wish them well, because first off, just running for office today has got to be the most intimidating and scary for your family thing to go through, because while we have great citizens here, we have a lot of people that would like to just chop your legs out from underneath you before they even hear a word comes out of your mouth, or give you a second to explain what comes out of your mouth. And I would like to talk just a little bit about that, and not in particular of anyone, but explain to people how it is from a first-time commissioner to now a second term, how you handle the citizens, and because you're an open book, you're open door, I want to hear from everyone.
The
Yep,
space
and,
is open.
and I love it because I'm married to one of you who does the same thing, and I always say, Carrie, you just said everything. I don't even have to say anything because I can't. I don't take her to buy a car. It's just not going to happen. So
the first time that I ran, my campaign from the first time to this time was almost identical. I did the same things: website, Facebook page, door to door. The only difference was this time going door to door, I couldn't really knock on the doors because of COVID. People were not answering the doors. I had a shorter window than the first time. The first time I had, I want to say 10 months to a year. This time I waited to put my hat in the ring. So I had a shorter window, which is fine. Neither is right, neither is wrong. The difference of running in a general election compared to a special election is the general election has all of the hatredness of the politics. You have what president are you voting for? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing that information with you. Why not? I want to know who you are. No, well, you can know who I am without knowing who I'm going to vote for president. And people are very indignant when it comes to the general election. The special election is going to be considerably more subdued than the general election because it's only going to be this Northport election and Holiday Park. So I hope the voters will turn out. This election is going to cost the taxpayers around $90,000. Thankfully, with our charter, we're only having a one election, a winner take all, as opposed to a runoff and then a separate election for two people. So I hope the voters come out in March because this is your chance to speak about who you want to be that fifth commissioner. I hope the candidates get their word out because there's two candidates that I don't know very well. The third candidate has been a mainstay in the city of Northport for a very long time. Can that be helpful? Yeah, absolutely. Can it be hurtful? Absolutely. So I just hope that the candidates that are running for the special elections start kind of getting their word out so that the voters know who they truly want to have for the special election.
And we talk about voting, and I think we, as a community, stepped up during the presidential election. I haven't seen numbers. Have you seen the percentages yet of how many Northport citizens came out to vote?
John, I don't have those numbers.
That's okay.
I don't know. But see, a lot of people come out to vote because it's a general election. They start at the top for president, vice president. They work their way down through state, through county. And then by the time it got to us for local, the numbers were so much reduced compared to the president. I'm sorry, your local candidates are the ones that are going to impact you far greater than the president of the United States.
Yeah, I wish they would flip that because at the end of the day, I think we all need a new civics lesson. Yes. I really do. I truly think we do because we're so focused on what happens at the federal level. Yes, while that trickles down, the decisions that are made by our local government, it's almost instantaneous response to what they're voting for. And then it's kind of funny how that works out. And I'm sure you can elaborate on this. No matter how you vote as a local representative, there's always a group of people that doesn't like that vote.
Absolutely.
All right. And it works the same way at the presidency. All right. So you can go to the top of that ticket and do the same thing. But local, we're running into Debbie McDowell and Pete and all you guys. We're running into you at restaurants and events, whether it be the 4th of July or the Christmas parade. We're seeing you guys locally all over the place, whether it's on the show. You guys are on once a month. You're readily available. Try to do that with the president of the United States. It's very difficult.
Exactly.
And if your voice wants to be heard, you start at the local level. It's sort of like taking that job interview and thinking you're going to be the owner of the restaurant when you go in and you're going to be the cook or the busser. It's you work your way through. And I think we forget that when it comes to politics on the local level and how it actually we build the country locally, and the projects get larger and things happen in federal government that are different than local. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It starts local. They see me everywhere around town. Some people may know who I am, some don't. Many times I'll get the look of, you look familiar, and then then they realize who I am, or I tell them who I am to spare them the embarrassment. But in reality is we are your local elected officials, and just because I'm elected, it doesn't mean that I have all the answers. We have 4 distinct personalities up on that dais right now, soon to have a 5th. Each one of us are different. Each one of us has a different way of thinking, processing, and coming to conclusions before they vote. None of us are right and none of us are wrong. We just have differing opinions. And if we can stay respectful up on that dais with our differing opinions, and believe me, there has been some very, very challenging votes that we've had to take these past 6 months to a year that have caused great divide between the citizens and the elected officials, between citizens and each other. You can see where one side says, why are they doing this? And the other side is saying, well, because this is what makes sense. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. And sometimes they're informed, sometimes they're not. Everybody has an opinion, and that's it. But let's use facts when we make decisions. And that's what I try to do. I try really hard to focus on the facts when I am making a decision. I try to remove the emotional part of it. I try to just stick with the facts instead of trying to rewrite those facts. Sometimes I'm successful, other times not so much, and that happens. It happens with each of us.
So, and I'm going to ask this because I know the answer to it. Do you feel like you've grown since day one?
Absolutely.
And the theory hasn't changed, but I think the control of the thought processes are probably better off right now than they have been in the past, right? Because you're seasoned.
I don't quite understand your question, John. I'm sorry.
I think the sharpness of your decision making from day one to today is because now you're a little seasoned in being a commissioner, and while the prospecting of thinking out the problem is the same, I think the speed of which you analyze is probably a little different now that you've gotten 4 years under your belt.
Absolutely, it's a little quicker. I'm more confident. You know the phrase, you find your voice. When anybody can find their voice and they feel that confidence level increase. The first, I'm sure, few meetings, I probably babbled and like I do still, but I found my voice and I'm a little bit more confident in my research. I'm a little bit more confident in staff. A little bit more confident in how I express myself. But I'm still human too.
Yep. Well, let's talk a little bit about staff, because I know that the staff itself is all, it's pro city, of course. But they're extremely helpful. Anytime I've had to talk with them or deal with them, I've done shows with Public Works and Parks and Rec. I know the inner workings of what goes on within the city as a whole. And you said you gained confidence with them. I think it's reversed too.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah, and I think once you get that first 6 months underway, that everybody finds out their tendencies, and
Mm-hmm.
once they know what you're looking for. I think
Correct.
that's the biggest problem with a new person coming in on any job. I don't care what it is, and it's a job. This is not a part-time gig. It's a
No.
full-time job, and even when you think your day is over, it's not. It's sort of like real estate. I was working until 11:30 the other night, and I said, "Sorry, Carrie, we couldn't go to dinner." And she says, "That's what you do for a living." Well,
Right.
being a city commissioner is the same thing.
Exactly.
You're committed to a city where technically they've designed these commission positions to be part time. Correct? In a
Well,
sense.
I think each commissioner makes the position what they feel it is. I like to do my homework. I like to get into the meat and potatoes of everything. Does that make it the only way to do this job? Absolutely not. There are other commissioners that come in, they do their meetings, they go home. Does that make their way of doing it right? No, it's their way. They are the commissioner. They have to, just like I, have to answer to the citizens. And I like to be able to explain to a citizen when they stop me in the grocery store, hey, why did you vote this way? What does this mean? How does this affect me? And I like to be able to give that answer.
Well, and therein lies the confidence too, from day
Correct.
one to now. Is because you've had to walk the walk too, as far as that goes. And I like your approach. I like the fact that you're not saying I do it the right way and everybody else is doing it the wrong way.
Nope.
Because everybody and anybody who's held a position at I was the booster president at the high school. It wasn't the only way. It was just John Rawlings' way.
Correct.
And it was the group that I was working with that really made that happen. And I look at positions like that as even city commission, because without a supporting cast, you go nowhere.
Correct.
And the supporting cast that you have within the city walls is amazing. And we talk highly about them, but I've watched them adapt through COVID. I've watched them adapt through different things, different job. They've revamped themselves over the year in several different positions to promote the city, clean up the parks, do sanitize things, and just forge ahead through probably one of the most difficult years of our lives when you look at it on a health perspective.
So this past year, 2020, was a very challenging year for everybody, for staff, for our citizens. So many unknowns were happening. Staff adapted as best that they could. There was no playbook. You could sit there and be, Monday morning quarterback all you want. There's no playbook when it came to COVID. Did we learn a lot of things along the way? Absolutely. Did we implement changes because of COVID? Absolutely. Is there room to continue changing? I am positive we are going to continue to see more changes as COVID continues on whatever path COVID passes on. We also had a lot of challenges in staff, on commission. We had to work through all of that, and I think we did a very good job, because a lot of it was emotional, a lot of it was personal, a lot of it was just the challenge of everything that is going on around you, and trying not to let it come to a head while we're up on the dais. There was a lot of changes within staff. You go from having a fully staffed staff in a department, and then all of a sudden half are working from home and half are working from the office. That is a challenge. And it's still being worked through, because it's constantly changing. The ones that were working from the office are now probably working from home, or, the dynamics are continuously changing. Not just with new personnel, but working together. And I have to applaud staff, because they have done an amazing job. They really have. But at the same time that I'm applauding staff, I have to applaud our citizens and our contractors because they've had to adapt. Our contractors have had to adapt to the new way of dealing with permitting and inspections and plans and stuff. Our citizens have had to adapt with how to view meetings, how to not see us around. I mean, for 9 months last year, I was around, but not around like I was for the past 3 years.
And you know, the beauty in having this discussion and having Public Works on and Parks and Rec, you guys are on once a month. This is for the citizens to ask questions also. So if you're listening on Facebook, and I love the radio listeners, if you're listening on Facebook right now or you have questions, if you type in your questions, believe it or not, they'll pop up on the screen, and we can see those, just like that one. You know, anything that you have a question on, if Debbie can't answer it now, she definitely will get back with you. So please feel free to ask questions along the way. You know, the value in all this is that you guys once a month rotate through the show. You guys come out here, you kind of put yourself in the forefront, and try to give the working class. And I say working class, we're a working community. We are very young. I think the average age 42 or something like that.
44,
right around there. 44. 44 still young. I wish I was there, but you know, it's a working class community. So a lot of people are at work, so they see these videos later. But there's a lot of information that can be given. And I think the first thing we tell people is go vote in the special election.
Absolutely.
Don't think your voice isn't going to be heard, because it is going to be heard, and it is so important to participate in anything local. I took some customers out this weekend, and they said, "Well, you've taken us out to lunch a couple times, but you've taken us to mom and pop places." And I said, that's because that's what I do. I support mom and pop. I do the big ticket items too. But guess what? If we don't step up and support our local businesses,
correct,
we're not going to have local businesses. And the local businesses actually are really cool, and they support a lot of things that happen with our youth soccer teams, whether it's girls or boys, softball for the girls, baseball for the boys. If we didn't have our mom pop organizations here supporting what we do in Northport, and Port Charlotte's the same way, Punta Gorda's the same way, Venice is the same way, Inglewood, that's all my listening audience right now. So if you really want to make a difference, get active with commission wherever you live. Don't be afraid to vote. Don't be afraid to walk up and speak to the dais about anything that you have going on. And if you really want a civic lesson, take your kids with you, appropriate age wise. Take them in, because it's a big educational experience for them. While watching on TV is one thing, that I'm telling you right now, being in that room is a completely different presentation for any youth or any adult who's never been there before. And there are a lot of topics, whether it's a positive, like supporting a project that's out there, whether it be the widening of Price Boulevard. I think, Debbie, you can probably respond to this, but most people don't even come to speak positively about things. They come to knock things down, or speak their mind on projects that are out there. How many times do you just kind of wish that there would be a group of people that came in the room and said, "Oh my gosh, they want Price Boulevard to be widened. This is awesome." So we have representation, although they're out there. They're just a quieter voice.
They are a quieter voice.
How do you deal with that?
I always encourage people, regardless of what side you're on the issue, Price Boulevard, are you for it or against it? We need to hear both sides. If we don't hear both sides, you wonder why the squeaky wheel gets the oil? That's because we're only hearing from the squeaky wheel. We need
That's
to hear from all of them. I actually had a citizen, I don't remember how long ago, email me in support of something. And they were just so thrilled that we were doing this one project. And I said, well, I'm very grateful. I said, unfortunately, you're the only one that has contacted me in support of this project. And they wrote me back and said, why am I the only one? Don't people contact you when they're in support of something? I said, no, not usually. Within probably a couple of days, I had another 15 emails in support of this one project. And it was really cool because we have to hear from both sides. We have to hear, because even if somebody's in support of something, they may be in support of something for a different reason than I even thought that they would be in support of.
Yep.
There's different way. There's a reason why we have 4 commissioners, soon to be 5, because we all think differently. There's a reason we have 77,000 citizens with 77,000 different opinions on a subject. And each one has different reasons for supporting or for going against a project. And we need to hear those reasons.
Okay, so I've got to say this because I know it's blowing you away every time you say it. When you and I were hanging out at the high school, did you ever think we'd say 77,000 people this quickly?
No.
I mean,
it's amazing.
I mean, the growth of this community is insane. I love it. But people, I remember the conversations back in the day where people would say, I don't want the city to change. Well, we all looked at each other that knew it was going to change. And we all realized it. We have vacant lots everywhere.
Right.
We just don't have the houses yet. And now the houses are being built all over the place.
And people want it to stop.
What's that?
And people want that building to stop.
Yes, and it's never going to slow down because all those lots, the majority of what we have here is individual lots. It's not swatches of land that the city can go, we're going to block the whole area over here. We're going to block it all because we don't want any more growth. We're not designed that way. We're a single plot community. Yep. And we're going to grow whether you want it to or not. And I'm going to say this because we have been blessed for a large group of people to be able to four-wheel in this community for a long time, a long time. And it's because the land was not being utilized. There are things that are changing that today, whether with the fact that solar is now being more prevalent. Yeah. And FP&L is like, yeah, we'll pay you to do it. Okay. And or you won't have an electric bill. So you've got power, you've got satellite, you've got well and septic. Anybody can build a house just about anywhere right now in Northport and not have to worry whether they have FPL dropping a line. And that was our biggest problem 5 years ago, is that we were selling the pieces of land for $5,000 or even $2,500 that it would cost you, $15,000 to get electric to it. That's not the case anymore.
Nope.
And go ahead.
We have a lot of diversity for housing here in the city. You could be out in 5 acres. You could have 10 acres. You could be completely isolated, or you could have neighbors all around you, above you, or below you. If you want to be in an apartment complex, there is a lot of diversity in our city when it comes to housing.
And we couldn't have said that back when we were hanging out. We didn't have that. We had a couple of apartment complexes, but they're not like the ones that are going up today.
Correct.
And the housing, we had a housing boom back in 07, 08. We were booming. There were housing going up all over the place. Of course, the economic downturn hit, slowed things down a little bit. But I got to believe that we didn't just bounce back. I mean, we kind of threw it over the moon, bounce back because of the growth that we're having now with projects that are happening right now that you see. I know you kind of did a little bit of research before you came on, but we didn't talk about anything. We never do. And I love that about what we how we do this show is because we never know which direction it's going to go to start. But what are some of the projects that are out there that you feel people need to know about or get educated on?
Oh, goodness. So we have so much development that is happening. And before we get into the commercial development, I want to stress because we have so many new people that are coming into our city and they see these large swatches of pristine land with trees and wildlife on them. And they think that the city of Northport owns that property. The city of Northport very rarely owns that property because of being a pre-platted community. Those are owned by individual people, individual entities, not the city of Northport. So when they see a whole block that's getting cleared, they go, why is the city clearing that property? Well, the city didn't own it. Somebody else did, and it's their property, and they have rights to that property. They have to follow the codes and the laws, but they do have rights to that property. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. I get a lot of emails when somebody has a home that's surrounded by 3 vacant lots, and somebody comes in and clears one of those vacant lots to put up a house, and they are all upset because they thought it was going to stay vacant. Well, they didn't own that property to keep it vacant. So whoever owned it can do what they need to do to it. So I just want to put that out there.
Well, let's add something else too, because you're talking about those pre-plotted places. People also need to realize that any road in Northport that says Boulevard, what's the potential of that road, Debbie?
Being widened.
Yeah, boulevards are not 2 lanes.
Correct.
Only 2 lanes within gated communities are boulevards. I found out the other day they actually named one a boulevard, and we drove in and we're like, yeah, this is never going to be 4 lanes. That's a fact. It was a cul-de-sac, and I don't know how they came up with boulevard on that. But all joking aside, people need to realize within the city limits of Northport, if you see the word boulevard at the end of your street name, just somewhere down the road, at some point, it has the capability of going 4 lanes. So if you think you have an amazingly large front yard, and your orange flags don't go all the way to the front of your front yard when you have your survey, it's because you don't own it.
That's right.
And you know that I think a lot of people found that out on Price Boulevard.
Yes.
And you know, I think it's kind of an awakening moment for people who live on Price. But I think it woke up our community as a whole, because I think people realized when that news came out, they started hitting the street signs and started looking up at the names of the streets. Now, you know, you got Cranberry Boulevard, you know, that takes you all the way to the freeway. It has the capability of turning into a 4 lane.
I think Cranberry is a street, and I think Salford is a street. I will have to double check that. I don't want people to. I have to double check. It's funny. Yeah. It's just right outside my door, and I just call it Cranberry. I don't even call it Street, Avenue, Boulevard. It's Cranberry.
Yeah. I think they're boulevards, believe it or not. And you know, I bring that up to people's attention because in real estate, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
And when you're buying a house, it's a big deal. But people come down here and they see these the back set of the yards a lot of times. I tell everybody, you know, if we're developed, look at the width of the lights from the edge of the streets. If the fence line isn't within 2 lanes, it has the capability of widening. Whether it be 3 lanes with a turn in the middle, it has the capability of widening.
That's right.
And we're 77,000 now, not 20,000 that we were back in 2008. So I think she's pulling it up. Cranberry Boulevard. She just pulled it up. So, you know, I say it wakes people up because as a real estate agent, the minute I heard the rumbling of Price Boulevard widening, that's when I sharpened my game a little bit and started warning people who were purchasing. And we were all doing that before, but I think we put it on steroids because people need to realize what they're moving into.
Absolutely.
And another good source that I think you'll back me up on, anybody who's new here that wants to understand the community and understand what's going on in the community, on Sumter is the Chamber of Commerce. Right across the street is the fire department. And if you go to the Chamber of Commerce, you can pick up a map, you can pick up all kinds of information, and the resources that are within those walls. If you own a business or you're thinking about starting a business, you've got to get involved with the Chamber. They do a great job. And I'll let you add anything in, Debbie.
Yeah, so the chamber, we actually are a partner. We're a kind of like an in-kind partner with the chamber because we see their value, and they're promoting the city not just to people, but they're also promoting businesses. So if a homeowner comes in and says, "Hey, I need a pool put in. Do you have anybody that belongs to the chamber?" The chamber will promote that business. They also act kind of as a liaison when a homeowner or business is having a problem with the city. They'll go to the chamber and say, "Man, I can't believe this. Is this normal? Is this common?" And they'll say yes or no, depending on the question. They'll point the person, developer or citizen, to who to talk to at City Hall. It's a great resource. Our chamber is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal organization. We have a lot of great clubs that are here in Northport if people are looking for ways to get involved in their community, to volunteer. But earlier you asked about projects. I don't know if you want me to touch on those.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Go for it.
So I'll be very quick. Okay, we'll start at Tropicare. Tropicare Road is going to be resurfaced. We put it out to bid for a contractor, and they're going to resurface that roadway. The sidewalk project is officially put on hold. We were going to put in a multimodal sidewalk path, whatever you want to call it. It is officially on hold. We gave direction to bring it up. I believe it's in fiscal year 22/23, somewhere in there, for further discussion. And the reason it's on hold is because of funding. There's no secret COVID has taken a big hit of our funding sources because we don't have the visitors coming this past year. So we put that project on hold. We have a couple housing developments going in. Palm Port, say that fast 3 times. Palm Port is at Citizens Parkway and Price Boulevard. It is an affordable housing complex. I believe it's 125 units, and I think 90% of them is going to be for affordable housing. You have to meet the income criteria based on your AMI. And I'm going to be very quick and brief instead of educational in this because we're running out of time. Then we also have another housing development going in at Cranberry and Toledo Blade, and that is Flats of Sundown. Flats of Sundown has many, many, many apartments going in there. Actually, that project was approved way before I became a commissioner, and then they started developing it. It's almost ready. They're probably getting close to opening it up for occupancy, whereas Palm Port, they just basically broke ground. What is going on at Panacea and Toledo Blade, right there by the interstate, you will see a huge development going in. That's a Benderson project, and that is industrial manufacturing. That should be opening end of 22, give or take. Yes,
going quick.
It's going up. I just drove past there. It's been about a month since I drove past there. It's like, oh my gosh, it's got walls already. Right in front of City Hall, we have 2 really cool projects going in. One of them is an assisted living facility. It's assisted living, it's independent living, and it's memory care. And then in that same general area is a Florida Cancer Institute they've got their walls up. So that is going in. Let's see, down off of 41, A lot of people are asking what's going on at Cornelius in 41. That's actually Charlotte County. That was going to be a Wawa. I don't know what's going on with that. That's Charlotte County. So you'll have to contact the Charlotte County representatives for that. Yes, Northport is slated to get a Wawa. It's going to be at Toledo Blade and Price Boulevard. The commission approved the plans to build it. Just because we approve the plans to build it and Wawa says, hey, we want to put in a Wawa, it's on Wawa when they're going to do it. That's on their timeline, not the city's. So if you really want them to step up their game, you might want to contact Wawa because they're in charge of when they're breaking ground and when they're going to open, not the city of Northport.
And there's a Firestone slated to go in on Toledo Blade too.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We are going to be having a groundbreaking ceremony very soon for a new dual complex. It's going to be a fire station and police station in the Welland Park area off of Prado Boulevard and 41. So that's something that's going to be happening very soon. They're going to be having the groundbreaking ceremony, and then that's going to take off like gangbusters and get built very quickly. So I think I hit on the ones that people are asking about the most. I did that under 5 minutes, so I don't want to take up the rest of the show. But if anybody has any specific questions, there's a really cool link on the city's website that says what's being developed where and how. So I will be more than happy to share that with anybody if they want to send me an email or drop me a line on my Commissioner Debbie McDowell Facebook page.
Awesome. And you hit that really quick, but it was.
That's just a thimble of all the development going on.
I know, and I'm laughing because we at one point were not talking about commercial building.
Not at all.
And as a real estate agent and you as a commissioner, it's all about rooftop. We're at 77,000 with really minimal service. Everybody laughed about all the mattress but there's 77,000 people here. I don't know that we need 6 mattress stores or 12 or 14, but it even go back now and look at the parts industry for automobiles. Mm-hmm. We have those. We had one. Correct. We had one. Okay.
One. Northport Auto.
It serviced 20,000 people. Okay. We're growing. Things are in our country are totally different than they were 365 days ago when projects are being analyzed now. And that's due to COVID. Every business out there is managing things totally different today than they were 365 days ago. And the growth potential that we have here is amazing. And with 2,000 people a day moving into Florida in general, okay, there is a huge need for a lot of service.
Yes.
It's going to happen. And it's not the commission that's dictating the growth of commercial, correct?
No.
It is all about the commercial guys, and it's not realtors. It's the restaurant owners. It's everybody analyzing their business now differently than they did a year ago.
Correct.
To bring in service, better jobs. Yes, well, better jobs. Think of it this way: it's difficult to even analyze a restaurant building right now in Northport. We don't have a lot of old building space, so there isn't. I'll just go in and revamp. They're needing to come in and build. During COVID, it's very difficult because we don't even have an end date. And so I think what we've seen with growth is amazing, and it's continued during a pandemic.
Correct.
Well, look at what we need.
The workforce is changing. Look at the workforce. I mean, before you had to have people in the building to do their job. And I've already touched on it, how people are working remotely. Well, if the city of Northport is looking at those options, you can bet your bottom dollar every business is looking at those options. Does the business really need, I don't know, a 10,000 square foot building? No, they might just need a 5,000 square foot and just have everybody work from home and meet on Zoom once a day. Who knows? Right. So they're not only reevaluating their space that they need, they're reevaluating their personnel needs. And now with the state having that $15 an hour being increased, it's every year it's going to go up until it gets to $15 an hour in, I think it's 2026.
Yeah.
So within 5 years, it's going to be $15 an hour. So they're also reevaluating, do we need people or do we need to invest in automation? So there's a lot of big question marks out there right now.
And I'm laughing because everybody thinks they're going to get these jobs at $15 an hour, but they're, one is 5 years out. Two, go talk to a restaurant owner. I've done my show in restaurants during the pandemic when the gossip of $15 an hour was being put out there. There are so many things that people haven't thought out that happen within a restaurant that $15 an hour. If you go into a modernized McDonald's today, I did it a year ago. I walked into a McDonald's up in Tampa. I walked in the front door. There were 3 people behind the counter. They said, you can put your order in over there. It was a touch screen. I walked over, stood in line, got my food, and those 3 people didn't take any money.
Nope.
It was all handled at the credit card right there. Yes. So if you don't think automation is coming, I don't know what century you're trying to go back to, but get into the century we're in today, because automation is taking over. It's taken over years ago, and I know that we're going back. I remember the car industry, and the car industry went through a revamping because they took all the workers that were in the factory. And they were all up in arms, and the union was up in arms because they went to automation and they lost a lot of jobs. And that's same thing. Go to Walmart today. Who's checking you out? You are.
The machine. You're checking yourself out.
Exactly.
And that is a huge thing. I see a lot of, I follow Facebook and kind of get a pulse of what's going on through Facebook. And just talking to other people, and people are complaining that customer service is non-existent. Well, you helped create that,
right? Because
customer service is non-existent. You can't complain about not having customer service and then say, well, everything is so expensive. Publix is great with their customer service. It's not cheap. Publix is a totally different place to go and shop compared to I don't know, McDonald's or Walmart, because the customer service is, I'm sorry, and this is not a bash on them. Their mantra with Walmart and McDonald's is to keep prices low. Publix's mantra is to sell more for less. And Publix is, we want customer service. Well, there's a price tag associated with it. So if you can't find your favorite soda at Walmart and you can't find somebody to ask where it's at, well, I got you can't have your cake and eat it too, is what kind of where I'm going with that.
Well, and the funny thing is I appreciate the analyzing of the city, because I said at the beginning, and I don't know if it was with you or one of the other commissioners, that we're as a city, we like everything in one spot. We did like everything in one spot, right. But I've got a daughter-in-law who's in the health industry, and she does an amazing job with her management skill set now, not that she didn't do before, but she's doing it remote. And what they're finding out with her is she's stayed remote, and a lot of them have gone back into the large building.
Mm-hmm.
She's still out producing the ones in the large building who were on site with their team, and she's out producing them. So
Wow.
it's working out now for businesses and cities. It's less maintenance on less building
Mm-hmm.
space. There are so many advantages, and yet you hit on something very, very smart, and it needs to be addressed at some point down the road, is that cities are customer service oriented.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we can't lose that at all.
No, we cannot. We can't afford to. So we're going to have to wrap this up. We're getting a high sign here, John.
It's 4:00 coming on.
All right.
So.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thank you guys for listening in. Debbie, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to the next time. Thank you, Marie. Bye-bye.